But I was, oh, Okay, it's 4 o'clock, and we'll start the special meeting here on Monday, February 9th. Again, this special meeting has been published, and the agenda is 2 action items on our agenda, so we'll call to order. And basically, it is to set the public hearing. First action item is to set that public hearing regarding local law to amend the Town of Malta zoning law, Chapter 167 / zoning. Go ahead.
Deputy Supervisor, I just want for the record that there were some corrections to the resolutions that have been, were sent out to the public. They're minor to just address referral to the county planning board. It was referenced that it had previously been done, which it was, and we updated to just clarify that we are sending over the revised proposed zoning law amendment to the county planning board again. That is on everybody's desk, has been also available for the public to look at, but that would be the resolution that if you move and get a second, that we'll be approving tonight.
Okay. And that was on the first one, the
Yes,
Chapter 167 zoning.
yes.
Okay? And so this is to set the public hearing. I guess I'll take a motion to,
So move.
in a second. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion in reference to setting the public hearing for this? And I will ask for all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the second action item is to set a public hearing and refer local law extending the moratorium imposed by local law number 3 of 2025 to the Saratoga County Planning Board. Again, it's the same procedure here. We'll take a motion to set a public hearing. And both those, and just as in, go ahead, I'll take the motion, and I'll just have a discussion.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
second. And just as a point of reference, both those public hearings are going to be scheduled on the same day, and that is the 23rd of February 2026 at 6 p.m. And they will all be held at that time. I'll call this motion to a vote. All in favor?
Is there any
Oh,
questions on it?
is there any questions in reference to the public hearing? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. And I believe that unless anybody has any further comments from the public in reference to our special meeting? Anyone? Okay, then we will adjourn the special meeting at 4:03 or 4:04, and we'll adjourn to our workshop in reference to the project. Thank you.
That's not a very good seat for me.
What's that?
It gets me into ethics issues.
Long story.
Craig, what are you sitting on? Because take one of these. I'll take whatever chair you're
I'm
on.
fine. Thanks, though. Yeah. Just getting out of the hot seat, that's all.
Well, that was red, so it was cooler color.
I do better.
You're
That's
the new?
perfect seat for Bart.
I'm Jeff Knox.
Sits there and
Nice to meet
listens
you.
to everything.
Alex Friedman.
Jeff Knox.
Nice to meet you.
Alex,
I'm Jeff Booth.
Nice
to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Scott Lansing. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations, I think, right?
Yeah, liking it so far.
They don't know what they're getting into.
Kind of that
Right,
be careful
Dan?
what you wish for type of thing, right?
It hasn't even started yet.
Can I borrow your pen for?
Microphones that are reaching today, so.
Talk loud.
Everybody knows how to project.
Is Cynthia not coming?
She should be late.
Okay.
Set there. Okay, I guess we'll start the workshop, and I'll refer to Steve to begin with.
Yeah, I want to first off thank everybody for coming. I think we're all excited to get this project back before the board. Hopefully Cynthia will be able to make it at some point. She had a matter she needed to attend to. And I think, we'll turn it over to the applicant to, and Floria, if you are good as well. Let's start with the proposed changes that you made. And again, thank you both for, all for coming in.
Do you have any comments?
Of course.
Okay, lots, I'm sure, okay. Well, so let me just start off by, so the two new gentlemen, you guys haven't been here before, so we've been working with the board now for quite some time. And we had a workshop a few months ago, and the board gave us some direction, things they wanted to see changed. And we went back and we made, I think, substantially all the changes, maybe a couple of small alterations. But by and large, I think we addressed the comments that the board had. We put some language in there, which I'm sure that Steve probably has some comments on, as well as planning staff. So I think they're obvious in the submission that we made. They're all highlighted, they're red-lined or blue-lined, depending on your printer. But I think from our perspective, we did what we thought you were requesting. So we're looking for some feedback on the changes that we provided to see if they're adequate or if you have further comments or discussion on those.
I guess I'm just gonna ask the board members a question about how they want to proceed. Do you wanna go through the language page by page, take a look at it? Each section.
Hey, I don't know, and for the new board members, Jeff, if, or Scott, if you just might want to, I know they've been briefed on it, I know they're aware of it, but just to say, hey, broad brush, we're looking at language that you updated, but just maybe a brief summary of the project and, how we got here,
Sure. Have you gentlemen read the PDD language at this point?
I've read this packet.
Okay, so yeah, because there's 11 pages in here, and there's quite a bit in there to take in. Maybe broad brush, we started with the project quite some time ago, and one of the goals was to bring in a product that was affordable, but without being subsidized for residents in the town. People like firemen and policemen and teachers and people that don't make a tremendous amount of money, that maybe can't afford a $700,000 or $800,000 house, $900,000 house, to make something that was a little bit more affordable and attainable for those people. So the only way really to do that is to increase density, because a linear foot of road is the same here or in Troy or Schenectady, or it doesn't matter, it's the same everywhere. And so what we did is we put together a concept that brought in different housing stock, different types of housing with different price points and different square footages that hopefully would complement each other within the project. The project has, the large public benefit is about a 3/4 mile long, 10-foot wide path across Route 9. And one of the last comments that the board had is they wanted to see us put some sort of a dollar amount on that. And so we attempted to do that. Obvious challenges are who's doing the construction, when it's done, what the cost will be. But we did put what we thought was a reasonable number on there. So that is the public benefit for the PDD itself. It does have access. That path connects the proposed trail or path the town already has in place down to the bypass, and allows residents of the town to make their way down to the Zim Smith Trail on a paved surface. We also have a natural trail that winds through the project down toward the back of the property, and would pick up the trail system down there as well. The project has one main road. This was a request from the town. This would be a town road coming in from Route 9. It's a boulevard. This would be dead-ended here, so if there's any future connection to another project, it was easy to access. But this is a town road that comes all the way down through the project and exits down here on Route 9 again, all right? That was a request from the town. They wanted that town road in there, and so we accommodated that. The uses are apartments in here. We've got condominiums in here. We've got townhouses in here, and then we have single-family homes down here. We have a clubhouse in here with a parking area. And one of the other requests was to put some sort of a bus stop access in at some point. We said basically somewhere in here in the future, if that's determined it's needed, that's where it would go. Sidewalks are dispersed throughout the property. Not on every side and in front of every single unit, but they're placed strategically. Again, with the intent to make this attainable or affordable to more people. It's easy to put sidewalks throughout an entire project on each side of the road, but it becomes very expensive. And so we're trying to make something that, again, allows more people access to live in the town. And if you work in the town, we don't really want those people going to another local town. We'd like them to stay in the town and spend their money and be part of the community. So that was kind of the 3 or 4 minute summary. Jeff, if you have any other comments on it?
No, just again, broader brush, the town looked at this, we reviewed it for a number of meetings, and it was referred to the planning board. The planning board took a look at it, they liked it, I think it was unanimous, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they have, when we get back to site plan, if we get back to site plan, they'll have their input as far as what they want to see. And we've left that open in the PDD language, and then we just brought it back to the town board, and that's where we sit right now.
Scott?
The only thing I want to add as far as the map that we're showing here, this is obviously a blow-up of the primary development area, but the parcel is quite large. We're approximately 130 acres, and we have, I think it's 83 acres, almost 84 acres of open space associated with it. So although we're zoomed in on the primary development portion, there is a vast amount of property in the back portion that is proposed as open space.
So I have a question. So you mentioned that this proposed plan right now does not have complete sidewalk coverage for the area. Were you considering either concrete or asphalt sidewalks for this?
Within the development, typically concrete.
And that's, just a 4-inch standard concrete.
Correct. Yep.
Formwork slab.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep.
What price point do you have in mind for this?
That's the question, right? I mean, it depends on when we get there. Again, I think we know we have to make this a more affordable project, and that really is the intent. We're not a not-for-profit business, right? Everybody has to make money to stay in business. But we also really are looking to make this a more affordable project. And the only way to do that is to reduce your per unit cost. So to give you an exact price point, I think that's impossible to do right now. Considerably less than what your typical single-family house is gonna be in and around the area. And we see what those costs are, and they just keep going up and up and up.
It's 500 plus, 500 to 600, depending on what market you're in. So, and that's a lot of money for a starter home in the new construction space. Yeah, so the condominiums, I think, are gonna be the most attractive for the seniors as well as for the, for the young families or the young professional couples. The nice thing about condominiums is they're taxed like apartments, so there's an offset. So your tax structure is a little bit lower. Your prices will be a little bit lower because we're doing 4 units at a time. But you also have your HOA, and that takes care of all of your maintenance. So comparable products sold in Beacon Hill, and this was a number of years ago, and overall for Brookline, probably in the mid to high 3s. Again, depending on.
That was the price a couple of years ago in Brookline?
That was a couple of years ago,
And so you would expect that price to go up then?
I would imagine, yeah.
So at least 3.5, closer to 4.
I would say 4. No, it really depends. It depends on materials. It depends on where the interest rate's in. There's a lot of variables. Depends on the side of, the cost of our roadways.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a lot of variables. So as Jeff said, it's a moving target. But again, it is our intention to keep these numbers down to make it affordable.
But as I'm sure you've seen since the pandemic, construction material prices have increased, if not double, or triple, depending on what the material is.
Correct.
Sure.
And that is the challenge, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we're continuing to get price increases. Nothing has stopped going up. The rate of change has been reduced, but the cost of materials continues to go up. We still get blacktop, or not blacktop, concrete. Paletti just announced another, I think it was an 8% increase. It's huge. And we question, the cost of fuel is down, diesel is down, and yet they just came out with another big price increase, and it's just the way it is. And I believe it was the second one in '25. That's the challenge when somebody says, how much is it? It's hard to say because those prices, depends on when we get there. The other part of that would be this, as we go through the PDD, there's language in there, you talk about the physical look of the buildings. If this board came in and said, every unit has to be hardy board or brick, it's gonna increase the cost to the point where it makes it hard to make it attainable again, right? So there is a compromise. We want it to be attractive, and what we did is we tried to put language in there that said, these are the style of homes that we want to build, these are the style of condos, and these are projects that in many instances that we've done before. So they're attractive projects, but you can't go and put onerous requirements on all those things, or else it becomes very difficult to make them, again, affordable or attainable. And that is the balance, right?
And this is a good start with creating a cluster and reducing the road. In some cases, infrastructure is over $1,000 a foot for your road. It's very expensive.
And even more than that, some of these now, you're seeing $1,100 and $1,200, again, with concrete, with asphalt, with fuel. These companies continue. Petroleum products, again, you would think that roofing and siding would come down, but they haven't come down. Ductile iron pipe has kind of leveled off, but it's still higher than it was even during COVID at 36 and 38. It's over $40 a foot right now for ductile iron pipe. And you ask yourself, why? And nobody has a great answer. Ask Paletti, and it's just, it is what it is. They're not gonna bring the prices down, so.
But then you throw in the labor.
Right.
And labor continues to rise. So everything's going up, and it's gotta stop.
Do you have an anticipated price for the apartments? Anticipated rent for those?
I think that's gonna be market, for the apartments.
What would you define as market in the area?
$1,600 to $2,200 is kind of a standard number. That's what we're getting in a lot of the markets in Saratoga County.
That's low too, I think.
Well, it is.
For our area.
Well, if you go into the city of Saratoga, you're looking at $2,500 to $3,000.
It's still horribly expensive for most people, though, trying to live in Saratoga County.
I couldn't do it.
I mean, when you look at, let's say minimum wage is $20 an hour, which I think is pretty fair at this stage. If you get two people working at $40 an hour, that imputes an $80,000 a year income. 30% of that is what you put towards housing, right? So you had $24,000 or $2,000 a month is what people should be able to pay and what they should be able to afford. But, at $2,000 a month, that's still a lot of money. But that's what we're looking at. I mean, that $1,600 to $2,200. A lot of these kids that come out of school, they can't afford, the down payment. They have good credit, they have good jobs, but they have to rent. And it's a starting point while they're saving. Are you? Okay. Yeah. So you know the challenges, yeah.
I've been following this project for, I think, about 3 years since we first talked. And it's developed, but the thing that I really like about the project is that it's kind of a transitional thing where a student coming out of college, start from scratch, he can rent an apartment. And instead of going from apartment to apartment to apartment, this has options for the student as he grows older, as his employment and his salary increases, to still stay in the area. He's not obligated to go off to some other town. So they have addressed that well, I think. I know you and I have talked about affordability for years now. And he has several solutions. But I think this project here addresses overall that concept.
It's also good for the seniors too, the condos, the folks that have been living in Malta for years and they have the big houses, everybody's left. They sell and they have a substantial amount of equity, but they still want to stay in the area. And the condo gives the maintenance free. It also gives them the option, they can run down to Florida and also stay in the community. So it really is that the condominiums, I think, works well for both ends of the buying.
The other thing I want to point out is we talk about, you talk about affordable and oftentimes there's a connotation of that not being, right? So we look more to use the word attainable for more of the masses. But when you look at these projects that are subsidized by the government, and then there's a great example that was just in the Business Review. It was down in Albany, and it was financed by Goldman Sachs. You probably saw this. You looked at the number of units and the amount of money. Each one of those units was $575,000. Did you see this? Did you see this article in the Business Review in Albany? $575,000, which is probably close to double what it would cost us to build an apartment. So let's say these are $275,000 each. Now think about that. You've got debt service on that, you've got to be able to pay that and your staff and ongoing expenses. But the affordable project in downtown Albany is nearly twice that for what we can build it for. So where do you think that money's coming from? It comes from the taxpayers. Is it really affordable? It's not really affordable. Somebody's making a ton of money on those projects. It's not us, we're not doing those projects, we don't do those projects. But that's what they're calling affordable, and it's being paid for largely by the public. So when we talk about being affordable or attainable, without subsidizing this with taxpayer dollars. And I still think that's what we're gonna be able to achieve here. It's a big issue. I saw that article and was blown away by those numbers,
So I just want to make sure that I have my notes here correctly. So your anticipated rents for these apartments, you're estimating between $1,600 and $2,200 a month for rents for the apartments. Your expected home prices right now are $350,000 to $400,000 for single-family homes.
No.
Condos.
No.
That's for the condos?
Starting, and again, these are starting prices.
Absolutely.
Right, and these are prices based on what our final infrastructure costs are, construction costs are.
Yep. And this is why I asked, because I want to make sure I'm writing my notes down correctly.
And this is based on historical numbers, which is, they're in the rearview mirror right now, right? So,
You're not wrong there. I had another question just about the site plan, and I'm just curious. So you have, all the apartments are in this one street right here. You have all the condos between this street, and you have the single-family homes down here. Is there a reason that these streets aren't connected? Are there wetlands? Is it just the site topography? Like, why don't we have an access road going along the back of this connecting all of these neighborhoods together?
Sure, well, you want to talk a little bit about the design part of it?
Sure, yeah, you are right as far as topography, wetlands, there are fingers of wetlands that do come up into the site.
I figured as much, but I did want to ask.
Yeah, topography as well, so we're working with the topography and wetlands as best we can to position everything on the upland areas of the parcel. So that's why there are not connector roads in the back, the impacts, the wetland impacts would not be feasible for something like that.
And also the infrastructure costs. You start putting more roads in, it costs more for the overall project. And then I think the third thing would be, these would be owned by, apartments would be one owner, right, for the complex, and they're gonna be responsible for the maintenance and so forth for this area. This would be its own individual HOA, and there would be a different HOA for this one here. So when you start kind of mixing those together, it becomes harder to define who's gonna be responsible for what. But I think a big one is the wetlands, and I think the other one is the cost. Again, you're trying to keep your costs of the infrastructure down.
Is there a reason that you wanted to separate these into individual HOAs?
From a legal standpoint, you talk to the attorneys and they'll tell you that's the right way to do it. Otherwise you're kind of mixing in who's responsible for the sidewalk and the stormwater maintenance and all these other expenses. So,
Understood.
yeah.
What's the total build-out time? I know it's
On market,
open, but
so, you'd say you have 300 units, maybe you could absorb 50 a year.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Six-
probably looking at
6 years.
four to 5 years, maybe 6 years. I mean, I would say that you're gonna look at units being built in all these different areas concurrently. So there will be apartments being built at the same time that we're selling condominiums, townhouses, and single families. So it's not like you're gonna sell just one subset 1 year, get that sold out and sell the other one. So there will be construction going on in all these areas
So it's not
simultaneously.
gonna be done in phases.
No.
then?
I mean, you might have, this may start first and then this comes, or this could start first and then this. We don't have that defined at this point, Craig, but not specifically phases at this point, no.
They're variable start and end times for all of
That's
those,
right,
so they can
that's right.
overlap.
Again, different product mixes,
Yep.
for different market segments.
And so you talked at the very initial bit there about talking public benefits, so we have the trail here that you guys are putting in, and there was a request for a bus stop by this clubhouse. What, I mean, what is it a matter of feasibility? You can't just, put, I guess like turn in for the bus like you see on Wolf Road where it cuts back, 10 feet, just a little bit more impervious surface, something like right here, make a trapezoid.
Yeah, they haven't, they don't even have buses that run down here at this point.
I
So
know.
I think at some point down the road, if that's, the school buses would come in and they would, if it was in here, they come in, they would loop around. Same here, you've got the loop around here. This run here, you come in, you're gonna loop all the way around, and here you're gonna come right through. So school buses, it's easy for them. They were talking about a bus stop, I think, for public bus at some point in the future.
But I mean, I guess my argument here is we'd ask people to put down sidewalks that were disconnected all throughout the town with the hope of eventually these, our whole sidewalk network would be connected. And so I see no reason not to just put in the little trapezoid for a predictive, best wish of ideally, we wanna have a bus here.
Right, if you
put
could-
Snow or whatever.
If you can define that where that's gonna be, at this moment, if the planning staff says this is where we know it's gonna be, then I don't think it's a problem for us to put that in.
Wonderful.
I just don't, it was kind of put in there in the future when someone asks for it, you're gonna define where you wanna put it, but
That was
Yeah.
last time, right?
that's correct.
So right now, we have no public bus routes, other than we have the CDTA Northway Express. So we are working with CDTA to try to get some bus routes, but, we have to prove that we have the ridership. And do people even want, and will they even use it, that kind of thing. So the idea
I've
was,
talked to have expressed their interest in having buses in Malta.
yeah,
I've had friends and coworkers take the CDTA out of the parking lot back where the Y used to be.
right, but it's not just like, okay, we want one, so we're gonna get
Exactly.
one, right? So the-
Exactly.
Right, so the idea was that we're gonna reserve the spot on the site plan, so that if we do get it, it's easy enough for CDTA to be like, all right, we can come in from the south, stop in, and then continue on northwards, or come in from the north and continue southwards. So, but because we don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, it's kind of hard to design, say, like you were talking about, to have that sort of like in and out, because we just don't know.
And that's fair.
Yeah, so, but the intention is that if that becomes like a real thing, that is generally the idea, is we want it to be in that kind of area. It's near the community center, it's on a sidewalk, so people can get there, so.
Thank you.
Plus, the other
appreciate
thing
that.
is that we have had buses in town in the past, and the ridership was not there. So it wasn't sustainable, they just.
What was the
took off.
population then, though?
Well, it's, you still have to get people to use them also. I mean, out here, we're very used to getting in our car, getting up on 87 and going to Albany. That's a whole different ballgame, and if they're not gonna use them, they're not gonna continue it. And that's how come they dropped them last time. That ridership was not there.
Do you know the years that those buses were active?
I think it was under Darren, who was the supervisor, so that was
Pre-COVID,
COVID.
pre-COVID.
All right. Thank you.
Which was a bad time to actually
Yeah.
have it, I guess. But I don't make those calls, that's down at Park Place. So should we kind of take the items one by one that we had asked for, how they fixed it, how they addressed it, or does somebody have a better?
We can go through the language a little bit, I guess.
Seeing that
Well, it'd
this
be
is-
beneficial for you guys as members of planning staff.
Just
Well,
make sure everything's addressed and,
we have some comments right on page 1.
Why don't we start there?
In development. So you have in bulk requirements, so there's an inconsistency. I'm gonna ask, you have a maximum number of 294 residential living units. But when you do the math, when adding single family,
Right.
townhomes, condominiums, we come up with 306.
We
Pick a number?
we did that intentionally because depending on how, as we go through the development process, and let's say there's a few more condos and a few less single family or whatever, and not knowing how that would fit, this gave us the ability to do variety of numbers within each one of the uses, not meaning that they would all be collectively higher than that. That's why it was 294 So it was 294, giving us some flexibility as we went through the design process. That was the only reason. You add them up and it's 300 and what?
306.
Yeah, I mean, we intentionally did that to give us some flexibility as we went through. We haven't gone through full planning staff, right, or design yet. So what happens is if we change this unit over here, maybe these are some more 2s instead of 3s, but this changes over here. It was giving us flexibility. That was the intent of doing that.
Yeah, we could just add some clarifying language to that effect,
That's
right?
fine. I mean, if you have some suggested language, I'm more than happy
I'll
to.
put a blue line in there and to something. And Jeff, if there's things that are stylistic or just kind of, I don't want to say preferential, I would propose that I just red line that or blue line it and send it over, things that I don't think we need to waste time on here. So just to move things along, all right?
Would be great. That's why that number doesn't equal that total if you do the math.
Right.
But
Yeah, we just want to button it up a little bit,
Yeah.
so. there's
Understood.
no am-
Yep.
'cause When you get to planning, to the planning stage, through planning board, so forth, there's ambiguity. Now, planning staff has to make a call, and then there's a disagreement between the developer and the code, and if we can just have it buttoned up a little bit better, just
Yep.
make it more
Certainly.
clear, so we don't have to guess.
yeah, certainly.
So that's
Yep,
all.
okay.
Piggybacking on that, or letter C, you have the different areas defined. It would be helpful if you guys have like a map essentially. We know right here, right, like it's, that area is single family, that's two family. But we also know during planning, things might shift a little because of topography, whatnot. If you guys can just basically paint a zone, like the blue zone is the general area for single family, the green zone is the general area for two family, because then that also helps us like that down the road, we know this is where that thing is supposed to go.
Sure.
That'll
Well, I think
help us.
they're already labeled A, B, C, D, and E, right? We could just
Yeah.
put a big A, B, C, D, and E on here. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah, as long as it's kind of like generalized to that
Okay.
area
Yeah, yeah.
where,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just
fine.
same
It's
thing
not
as
gonna be cast in stone. It wouldn't be a meets and bounds description. It would just be
Yeah,
generally
exactly.
these, that's fine.
General
Yeah, yeah.
location.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, no problem.
Did you have anything else on that, Steve?
I had on this first page, and it's maybe a question for planning and for the developer, but in D, we're talking about development and phasing. There were 2 points. One was, phasing would be approved in the site plan, or is it, designated like subdivision type phasing? In other words, we're gonna build all the apartments first, we're gonna build this first, or, and so that there's definition, so we know what it is. You don't want haphazard development within that. The other part that speaks to this is that the amenities and the public benefit, we need some standard as to when they're gonna be built, so that the project, let's say you guys sell it to somebody else, not to pick on you, and they do all the single family and the apartments and the condos, and now none of that stuff is done. So I think there needs to be some tie-in as to, and I don't have the answer as to when, but a discussion about that.
Triggers for what?
Triggers for trail installation and when the clubhouse get built, so,
Okay.
for instance.
Okay.
Like at what time
Okay.
is the requirement that you have to install the multi-use path along Route 9? When does the clubhouse
Okay.
get constructed? So, because obviously we don't want them, the very last thing that gets built. I'm gonna be honest, that's not what we want. It's gotta
Understood.
happen sooner than, we understand that you have to make some money, but there has to be a trigger at some point when those amenities start getting built.
Should it be tied to unit construction?
It could be, you
I
know,
would say probably, maybe COs, whatever that trigger might be, you do it to COs as you're people are starting to move in. We could take a look at that and kind of tighten up a little bit for you. I mean, I would say things like the clubhouse, you never do the clubhouse in the beginning, ever, because it's a huge cost up front and there's nobody to use it, right? So it's usually tied in later in the project. Exactly when, I don't know, but we can tighten that up for you. Yeah, sure.
So if this isn't done in phases, it's kind of thought of as a whole. how is the letter of credit handled here? Do you anticipate this project taking as a whole, say, 3 years or 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know, right? If we get another pandemic, what happens, right? There's a lot of variability in
Well,
how that
To
happens.
protect the town, I think that the letter of credit and the fact that inflation is factored in, we want to make sure that there's some kind of a phased approach on that to evaluate the inflation so the town doesn't end up short.
What have you
That's a
done,
huge issue.
yeah, what have you done with the other projects, the larger
That's
projects?
why we're talking about it.
Yeah, so we're in the process of updating or considering updating our road standards and things, and this is where it's coming back to bite us. And, normal letter of credit, for example, would be, automatically renewable. And what the town is going to probably be moving towards and requesting from you is that it have a time period in which there's an escalation clause. And I'd refer Scott to talk to Joe Lenaro about this. It's something that we're working on, and I don't have the exact, but say after 5 years, obviously the materials of the roads go way up, and if the project isn't finished, then the town's in a bad spot because the letter of credit isn't increased, and we don't have the same leverage to make sure it gets done.
Have you guys had issues with having to exercise letters of credit and then not having them be enough to cover the infrastructure cost?
Yes. That's where it's coming from.
Gotcha.
On that point, was something I was gonna raise later, but the legislation needs a separate section about performance bond or letter of credit, standard type, that would, be typical in any of a legislation that we put forth.
Do you have an example that you could send over, Steve, of something you've used that?
Yeah, that would be something I could put in that red or blue line, saying like, here's what's in other PDDs that we've approved and what kind of language we're looking for. And I could get from Joe Lenaro too, the language that we're seeking potentially with the letter of credit for roads.
Great.
So is that escalation usually tied to a number, inflation or?
Yeah, definitely. It's not arbitrary tying it to a number. I meant to speak to Joe before I came and we didn't connect. But we'll get you what we're looking for, and it's, something to work together on.
And as I said earlier, it's just to protect the town.
Moving on.
Thank you.
Building setbacks, from a planner's perspective, we still prefer a 10-foot side setback versus, I know you went from a 5 to a 7.5. Can you take a look at your plan to see if we can get 10? It's just that separation between buildings, is only 20 feet when you have 10-foot setback. Especially when the homes are stacked together. I see you have it for both the townhomes and the single families. Still feeling a little uncomfortable about that. I know our planning board has been uncomfortable with anything less than 10. So something to consider.
Okay.
So in the last workshop, we asked them for
10.
10. They went to 7.5.
7.5.
Now, does an increase of 10 feet limit the number of units you can put down on that cul-de-sac? Is that your concern?
It starts making things a little bit tighter and starts to limit some of the units, so that's why we were hoping for a compromise at 7.5. Yeah,
My question, so based on line 1 on the front page, single-family homes, so these units could, be in a range of 1,400 to 2,500 square feet. So if you made all of the no more than 20 houses 1,400 square feet, would you be able to accommodate those 10-foot setbacks? And it's more of a concern of the larger units.
no.
It depends, on the configuration. If they're skinny and narrow, they go all the way back. If, you got a 2-3 car garage, probably not. So
Are you thinking single floor 2 floors?
It's gonna be both, right? I mean, I think we want the flexibility to offer both types. There are seniors that are gonna come in, they're gonna want a single story. There's a family that's gonna come in, that's gonna want the up and down, it's a little more economical to build, right? Little more square footage for them and their kids. I think that it's both.
Yeah, and you'll have it blended where you have the primary on the first and a couple bedrooms up top.
So I'm gonna caution anybody from limiting to one size of a building, because we've been there, done that, and it's failed. 3 Silos PDD failed because we limited the size of the buildings, is one of the reasons it became economically infeasible to
Well, I think there
construct.
are other reasons on that, though.
Yeah, there were multiple, that was also one of the one of the reasons too, was there was a limitation on some of the housing and things like that. As cost escalates, that becomes, by having a range of footprint is ideal, because then the developer can try to work with what's marketable at that time.
So with that said, are you suggesting that maybe we would take out those square footages, under the bulk requirements within each
No,
one
I
of those
think
uses?
having a range is fine, but saying no greater than, having, there was a, like 1,100 square foot home or something like that. There wasn't a range in that, so that becomes
Right.
very difficult to design around. So I'm just trying to caution,
No, I.
having a range
Yeah, I
is
appreciate
good.
that, yeah. And that is why, when we went through, we tried to provide some ranges, and that you could look, there might be some overlap, but we wanted that ability to really, as we went through the design, to be flexible, right, in what we come up with. So I appreciate you saying that, but that is what we were aiming for.
So this is a question again. There's a asterisk with accessory structures shall be located a minimum of 5 feet from any property boundary. And this is really more for planning staff. Is there any limitation on accessory structures due to the small size of lots or anything that we think should be addressed or not? Or does the developer have any concern with that? In other words, I'm not familiar with what the accessory structures, what we would be allowed, but, is there a maximum size of a shed, right? For example, on a really small lot, you don't want a huge shed per se, or not to pick on sheds, but.
So they could add language to the PDD language stating that sheds or accessory structures shall not exceed 144 square feet, because 144, you need a building permit. And then you need, if it exceeds that 144, you now, typically in all the other zones, is you would need to meet the regular setback, rear and side yard setback. An accessory structure that doesn't need a building permit is permissible to be placed within 5 feet of the setback. So something you may want to consider limiting the size of an accessory structure due to the size of your lots. And I would highly recommend keeping it under that building permit requirement.
Sure.
Right, and the reason I just threw it out there is because if you limit the size of the house, then you're gonna have a desire to build a really big accessory structure to put all your toys in, and then that kind of defeats the potential purpose of having that small.
Maybe one
Right,
accessory structure.
right. I don't want to tie your hands. I just want not to have to
Sure. Something that's
hear it later.
more popular and common right now, and I'm seeing a lot of requests, is for the ADUs. That's a quick no. I'm here, everybody's talking tiny house, I don't get them, but they're talking.
Yeah, one unit per lot when it comes to your townhomes
Gotcha.
and your single
Understood.
families.
Understood. Okay.
The max of building permit size?
And you're gonna put the square
Yeah, for the
footage of that in there also?
accessory.
Yeah, I made notes.
I would say
Yep.
keep it
I
on
think that
144.
144 is, that's.
So they don't need a
for
building
lots of
permit,
size.
and then they can place it at 5 feet, and then they would meeting your state building code.
Well, no, I think that's fair.
There's no room on these things for pool.
No, we already talked about that,
No
right?
pool?
No.
No
Ah,
pool?
perfect.
Okay. Should that be written in here?
Did we have it in there? I know we did talk about it. I don't know if it's in there. I can certainly go through and double check,
I
but
don't remember seeing.
there's really no, we did have the discussion, there's no room for it anyway, so.
he may want to make mention of it, because it's amazing how a homeowner can figure out how to put in a tiny little kidney pool.
And
But-
especially when they start to buy a property with the anticipation, what if? Then they come to find out they can't.
It's important to note that building codes refer to hot tubs as pools.
Really,
So if you don't want to prohibit someone having a hot tub on their deck,
right. Can have a hot tub.
right? Because, that could be, a hot tub is not very big. If that's something you don't want to prohibit, then
I think that's unreasonable to do that. So I agree with you. I appreciate you noting that, because if somebody wants to have a small hot tub, they should be able to do that, Yeah.
And a lot of this will be addressed in the HOA
Yeah.
as well.
yeah, that, we had this issue come up previously, which is why I'm
Oh,
bringing it up.
okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, we'll make that change.
You might figure out
We were on page 2 with setbacks.
No, I think,
We're still on two?
I've got,
do you have
I
something?
have a small comment on page 3, but if you're still on page 2.
No, I'm past, moving on to page 3.
Page 3, under 8, paragraph 2, under A. It's the last sentence. We talk about, in addition to residential offerings, the PDD will integrate thoughtfully designed open spaces, pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, and access to nearby recreational, commercial, and civic amenities. And then it goes on from there, but I want you to add, and access to nearby recreational, commercial, civic, and transportation amenities, because we're gonna be doing the pathway, access to the Zim Smith. So that's an integral component, and if eventually there is a bus stop, so having that in there, I think, is important.
Okay.
Which,
Page 3, 8A, or, yeah, 8A?
I thought you said two.
Yeah, I've got it. Yep, thank you.
I got just a comment on page 3. It's probably just me being a lawyer here, but we're a drainage district, as well as
Where is it? Which one's the?
Drainage District 6, the second paragraph, a drainage district shall be created for and subject to approval by the town of Malta as well as other regulatory agency. The form, that's gonna require map plan and report and those type of things, but that's at developer expense.
Well, I'm sorry, so you want to add developer expense?
Yeah. In other words, the town isn't going to be the party
Well, no.
forming that drainage district.
No, okay.
I think it's understood, but,
Is that gonna be managed by an HOA?
No, the district would be a town with a tax, similar to what we did at Dunning Street Residential.
Or the town would be responsible for
Maintenance.
maintaining it?
Correct.
But they would be collecting tax dollars in order to do so. Yep. I think we talked about this at the last
We did,
workshop.
and
Yep.
it-
You don't want an
with,
HOA.
with New York State DEC regulations and requirements on towns, drainage districts are the way to go.
Way better.
Because the town seems to be held responsible regardless of who's
Right.
really supposed to maintain them.
Correct. Yep.
It all rolls down to the town. So if we can collect taxes to maintain that upfront, that would behoove everybody.
What rolls down? All of it.
All of it,
Thank you.
all lands in our lap.
Okay.
So the HOA collects the money,
No.
No?
Town tax.
It becomes a property tax,
Okay.
a line item on your tax bill for drainage. And then it gets, our comptroller will eventually get that money and she'll put it in specific kitties for accounts for maintaining the stormwater management.
The tax from the residents that benefit from it, not the overall town.
For some reason, I thought that it was collected by HOAs and then paid yearly into the town.
I think the discussion last time about,
drainage district, that's what happens.
Well, the concern that was, like, we talked about this last time, was that HOAs are gonna wanna put more money into flowers and maybe less into maintaining their drainage districts, so if it's collected, they can't have a say in that, and
Okay.
so.
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks,
Page,
Still on page 3, B under design elements. I understand wanting to restrict sidewalks to one side for keeping development costs down. I totally get that. Some areas might benefit from having it on both sides.
Well, I think we give the planning board the ability to
Okay.
kind of go through and do that. So in here, we talk about the planning board, this being a discussion to not mandate it from day one that every side of every road has sidewalks, right?
Right.
And kind of go through, when we talk about the ability to have it, in some areas, I think it makes sense to do it on both sides. In other areas, it only makes sense to do it on one side, so.
Right, so basically it'll be at least on one side, but some areas may have both sides.
intermittent.
Yep.
So who's responsible for the, keeping those sidewalks?
The HOAs are gonna be, so it depends on where it is. In an instance like in the apartments, it would be the apartment owner. In the condos, it would be the apartment owner, the one single owner, yeah. And then in here, it would be the HOA, okay? They would have to take care of it. Same thing over here. Actually, this would be the HOAs here as well, yep. Over here, probably typically it's the single family is gonna have to shovel their own sidewalks, so.
But ownership of the sidewalks usually in the townhouses and the single family would be owned by the property owner. The HOA would own the sidewalks, as would the single apartments or the one owner apartments.
Right.
Making sure it's addressed.
anything else on that page that anybody has any questions about, page 4? Page 4, I have a comment about, in section D. So we have the conservation areas, this is just minor. Can you put some kind of statement in there that the conservation area, we need to have some signage for those natural areas? So adding signage, because what happens is we get these natural conservation areas, homeowners, condo people, they don't know what it's for. And if we could just say it's conservation area and this is why it's not being maintained, or this is why we're not mowing it, something like that.
Okay.
So to be, I don't know how you want to just address that those areas should have signage, that this is a conservation area.
Okay,
So,
okay, take care of that.
yeah,
It's easy.
No dumping.
no dumping.
On C, I don't know if it was addressed before, but I had a note from the last one that this is about snow storage and efficient removal. It says that you'll ensure safe and efficient snow removal operations. The project will incorporate designated snow storage areas strategically located throughout the development, which is great, but can we clarify that they'll be designated by the planning board at site plan review or in consultation with the highway superintendent? In other words, this is not your project, but a concern. It's a real issue sometimes finding places to put the snow. And the highway superintendent wants to be aware and involved in that decision because of the equipment that he has and size of the equipment and where it can get in and get out of.
I think with respect to the highway department, any of the areas that he's plowing, if it's not an area that he's plowing, then it probably doesn't matter for him, right? It's really gonna be, maybe we could identify it at planning, where we're thinking this would be, and we can work with Scott.
Correct. I mean, a lot of the roads in there are not town roads, so we'd be concerned, he'd be concerned with the town roads.
That's right, okay.
Just as a note from the fire service in reference to that, storage and snow storage in private roads is a big concern also. Making sure that we're not piling it up on a corner where you can't
There's
make
a
a
hydrant,
corner.
yeah.
Or in
Or
front
a
of
hydrant,
hydrants and
yeah,
things like that. Yes.
Okay.
So does the red line items satisfy what the town has requested on page 4?
Yeah, this was stuff that we had requested them address, so this was additional information that they've been, they've added to the language since the last time we were, yeah.
Are you happy with that language?
Yeah, I was just adding the one thing about signage. I don't think Steve had any more, not on page 4. The next page, we have some more comments.
Okay.
So, has the highway department reviewed these plans yet? Roger?
I believe he's had access to them.
Well, we have, and he has been at some of the meetings, so he has seen the design as it stands right now.
Did he have any
It's right there.
input at all? I know, I'm just,
We haven't heard anything else since the meeting that he was at previously.
okay. Yeah, he did.
relay some concerns to me, like the one that I just raised, and
Yep.
if there's others, I probably have some notes on them.
Okay.
I have not had any
Do
conversation.
you have any issues at this time, or what?
Well, I just saw the thing on the computer, I don't really have a set of plans. You're saying you're gonna build this by road standards, okay? In one place you're saying to build by road standards, but then you have a 60-foot right-of-way. In one place it's a 54-foot right-of-way. Our road standards have 80 feet right-of-way. That was discussed at the meeting we had. The connection, this is an easy fix. The north connection, where you stop to go to another, possibly another piece of property, that has to be a turnaround for a snowplow.
Yeah.
Okay? We already talked about snow storage. Sidewalks, I'd like to see them 10 feet from the pavement, so that we're not rolling snow up on the sidewalks.
We have that right.
And the mailboxes, all the kiosks, if there's gonna be a. So I'm understanding what you're proposing now is that the only road that is a town road is coming in at the upper boulevard and coming out by, on Route 9, where it's only 54 feet. Where the townhouses and everything, that's all private roads, correct?
That, no,
Townhouses are public,
townhouses are public as well.
as are the single family.
Those all have to meet our specifications, as far as a cul-de-sac, distance and size.
This entire.
Because I think it's a heavy lift for pile the snow up on the sidewalk, and then the homeowner has to take care of the snow off the road
This
and
not
That's
that.
correct.
the sidewalk. And are those sidewalks coming in on the town road, or gonna be the town's responsibility, or the HOA's responsibility?
HOA.
HOA, we hear.
All the way from Route 9 and back out to Route 9?
HOA is gonna,
There's no sidewalks there?
not the ones on not the multi-use pathway.
Now, are you talking about the interior town roadway that runs north-south?
Yes.
There would be a one sidewalk on one side of this, I believe. That is, at this point, I don't know who's responsible for them, so again, that should probably be put in the PDD language.
Like I say, if the
Who's going to
sidewalk
maintain that sidewalk?
is close to the road, we're gonna be rolling snow up on the sidewalk, that's a heavy lift for the HOA, homeowner, whoever takes care of that sidewalk.
Well,
So, I'm seeing all the way through this, it's a 60-foot right-of-way, our standards are 80 feet right-of-way. The southern entrance is a 54-foot right-of-way. So I don't
Who
think it's.
controls our standards? Roger.
Hmm?
Who controls our road standards?
we have adopted road standards.
So this got,
We've adopted road standards that were approved by the town board that are,
discussion we had with this board numerous times was that, and when Roger was here at the table, we went through this and we showed where we could keep the utilities in the grassed area between the sidewalk and accommodate all the things that he was trying to do. We went through that in great detail. I understand that the standards are 80, and I know that what Roger would like that, but in order to do that, it's going to substantially impact our ability to move this project forward.
What is the
what reason?
standards?
It's gonna
throughout
just,
other towns?
there's 60, almost every other town is 60,
16, 50.
60 and
I think
50.
we ought to update our code then.
Well, if this is what's useful for Malta, then we use what's useful for Malta. But, so what is the substantial hurdle though for you guys? I'm just
Well,
curious.
if you were to go through on these and push this back from 60 to 80, it's gonna substantially impact the number of units you can get in all these areas. And it's gonna makes it very, very difficult to get the units in here.
Is that, so assuming the 80-foot right of way, I mean, this would require a major no, I'm talking 80, which what our town standards are.
It was 80.
That's what I'm saying. Is you would have to substantially redevelop these entire areas.
Yeah.
I'm a square.
It's-
I like grids. But
It's
I'm not gonna tell
this
you to put
and this are because these are private roads,
Mhm.
not gonna be plowed by the town.
Mhm.
But this and this, in addition to the main road, it would be a substantial impact on the project. And it
Now-
is something that we brought up early on in the process. And it is, my understanding, it is the purview of the board to make those adjustments within the code if they so desire.
Are you limited space-wise by site conditions on this
We are.
portion of the property?
We are.
What are those site conditions that limit you?
Wetlands.
Topography.
So I know there is an environmental map, it's not on this one, but you have a wetland, basically going all the way up into here.
You can kind of see the hatched area, and then there's a
Yeah.
line outlining the hatch, so that
Yep.
is the wetland. So obviously, we're going up to limits of that. So as Jeff said, any increase in that right-of-way width it substantially impacts the layout.
Thank you for the
So
clarification.
Gloria, you're saying that 60 is the standard throughout other towns in this area?
Yes, from what I talked to other planners within Saratoga County, generally, it is a 60-foot right-of-way in most all other towns. When they hear 80 from Malta, I get many developers, planners gasp at the fact that we have 80, and they ask why. I don't have a good answer
For
for that.
clarifying that.
Our right-of-way standard in downtown is also.
Well, that varies on the type of street you have, so some could actually be skinnier than 60.
Some are skinnier than 60.
Right,
Okay.
depending, but generally a lot of those become alleys or what have you. But the downtown residential tends to be about 60 feet with, because we have to meet New York State Fire Code.
Right.
And then you have sidewalks and bridges and things that make the street look pleasant.
Thank you for
You're very welcome.
supplying that added information.
It is my understanding that if the town board were to, Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, adopt 60-foot right-of-ways in this legislation, I think as long as the construction of the road for materials and so forth, the board has that purview, but again, I'm not legal, I'm gonna leave that up to, our town attorney, but, we are writing specific language for this development.
For this one.
And I believe there are potentially some leeways for the town board to modify, those standards. Again, that is not my purview.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think that generally I agree with what Floria said, but practically speaking, it doesn't address the concerns of how we're going to remove the snow and care for these roads. Now, what I'm hearing now wasn't, at least when I reviewed the maps and stuff, didn't see it as such, that those two smaller loops through the townhomes and through the single-family homes are intended to be town roads as well? Is that what we're discussing as well? Okay, because that was news to me, but that could just be me. I'm just curious, well, why are those roads town roads and not the others? Is there,
Yeah, primarily for the right-of-way, so that each one of those units has frontage on a public thoroughfare. So those are individually owned units, and where the condos are owned, but they're part of a larger condominium association where they share in the ownership of the property. Townhomes are individual ownership, single-family are individual ownership, so they're frontage on the public roadway.
Might I suggest that you put an appendix that shows future town roads? Approximate locations, so there is no question down during planning review. Yeah, I feel like there was a color-coded map and it wasn't completely clear as to which roads were going to be private.
Yeah, one of these
which were going to
maps.
We can clarify on,
Yeah, that would be helpful.
yeah, appendix F.
Now,
That would be helpful for the appendix, one of the appendices to clarify that.
and the other thing that Roger raised is on the northern end of the main thoroughfare, that there need to be turnaround.
I've got that in my notes.
Okay. And I think, which we haven't really got to, I was gonna address it later, but I do think that Cynthia, who's not present, has relayed major concerns about the exit onto this southern exit onto Route 9, and the status of that. You know, it's doesn't comply even with the 60-foot if we're going there. And secondly, I got personal concerns about DOT allowing two cuts right next to each other for those two lots. I know there were discussions that maybe didn't go anywhere, but that was a concern that Cynthia raised, so I'm expressing it now, and Roger raised it as well. Is there a reason, or is there a deadlock on being able to resolve that issue?
They had no interest in working with us. We tried to work with the adjacent project, the senior project, and they had no interest in combining those roads. We said we would combine it into a town road where their road adjacent is a private road. We thought it made all the sense in the world to do that. It would be maintained by the town. It would give more flexibility in the road. And they had no interest in doing anything. And it was multiple conversations, and then they just stopped returning phone calls. Scott was the engineer for that project, and he was able to get nowhere as well.
All right, so,
Engaged New York
town
State
help
DOT for assistance.
No, but their project's already approved. So there's not a whole lot, what are you gonna do at that point? Their project's already approved.
right, but isn't it a potential issue if DOT says no to our?
We did talk with our traffic engineer, who indicated that DOT may or may not give us a hard time, but said that ultimately, if that's the place that you have to access, they're gonna give you access.
But you have not contacted the
No.
DOT.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but with our conversation with Wendy, Scott, she did say that essentially they would give us access because we need that.
Yep, that is correct, yeah, they typically do not deny people access, but smart planning in that area would be to combine those.
And we agreed with the town, and we did try multiple times.
Who would you reach out to at the Department of Transportation for this kind of request?
I don't know, Wendy's got the
Yeah,
contacts.
I apologize, I don't have the name, I'd have to check with our
Do you
transportation.
know the office or the bureau that it would be under?
New York State DOT, their highway permitting division.
All right, thank you.
I would like to see that one access only.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I would say we ramp up the pressure.
I don't know that we can ramp up any pressure,
Well, I think the town can
maybe.
possibly,
Could we get a joint meeting? Do you think?
Try,
We try?
yeah,
Try to,
I mean, if
yeah.
not
try
get anywhere
to
now.
gather our DOT friends. Make a note.
I mean, I just don't want to, Craig's got concerns, I know Cynthia's got concerns. You've come so far on the project that,
It's the safety of it, and having two side by side and two cars there, they're trying to get out of Route 9, if they're going north, they got problems.
Well, the one, I'll say two things. I'm sure this was subdivided back in the day when 50-foot right-of-ways were common. Years ago, that's what it was. It was 50, and then it increased to 60. The nice thing about this location is that you can take it right out of here and the roundabout is right there and you can loop around and go north. So getting across is a challenge. It's pretty easy to get out and take a right here and loop around.
Yeah.
Could you
You
just
know.
post it as a one-way turn?
You certainly could do it. You could
A
certainly
lot
try
of
that.
people do not like taking that extra step, though.
That should
I
definitely,
see it
Oh,
coming
this
out of this.
definitely be a
doors
right
here.
out
They
only.
just as soon take a left.
Yeah.
Well, you put a sign in, then if they wanna break the law, they can break the law.
They do it all the time.
Well, then we need to be
Yeah.
better on our enforcement there, but.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. But I think it is at least advantageous to know that there's an alternative for someone as opposed to having to go out and go across 2 lanes of traffic. At least they know they can go right, loop around and, in 30 seconds and be heading back
Very
north.
close to it.
Yeah.
Scott, do you know where their project is on it? What they're doing with this project?
I believe they're marketing it right now. Yeah.
So can I just, where are we with this? We're gonna try to talk to DOT?
I will send out an email to my DOT contacts and see if I can maybe try to convince DOT to at least meet with the town
Yeah.
and Scott Lansing to try to see how they feel about the access points for those 2 projects.
I think it's worth trying to do.
I will,
Absolutely is.
I will reach out to DOT to try to coordinate that in the next week or 2.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You'll get no pushback from us because we thought it was good planning to do it.
It's good planning.
Yeah.
They usually agree when we have foresight to see that, we have 2 projects that should be working together.
Yeah.
You also indicated that you think there should be a right turn only?
Yes.
Yep. The round, because doesn't,
I'm-
project to the south have a right out only?
I believe that's full access. I'd have to
Is it
double
full
check that,
access?
yes,
I
yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it is.
So I think that will be even,
Yeah. There is a shared
Even
left turn lane
crazier.
there from what I recall, so I think a full access would be appropriate there, but that's something we could work with DOT on and.
I mean, it's DOT's call on that,
Right.
but sometimes
Yeah.
they,
I think there'd be more leverage if they hadn't received all their approvals at this point, so.
any more road questions, or can we move beyond roads?
Oh, yeah.
Entrance on the north side, the boulevards. The separators in the thing, these are raised.
They would not be. We have had experience with Roger on other boulevards where they're recessed, so the plows don't skin them when they come through, yes. Yeah.
and that's town road there too, right?
Yes.
Roger, are you okay with the boulevard entrances if they have,
If they're sunken,
if they're sunken? Okay, thank you,
prefer no boulevard, but
understood. And no trees, right?
only in the right spot.
Anything else on roads?
Well, obviously, page 7, access number 11,
Pushing that right along, aren't you?
we would be, that's just the road piece of it. That would, the 60 feet and then 57 and a half feet. I think the 57 and a half feet is less than that, but, we need to verify that and,
Last paragraph.
yeah, and if it's gonna be a right turn only, that probably would be indicated there.
Can I just say something about the 80 feet? Is that the road didn't change, only the right of way changed. The road is still the same width. But the right of way changed to accommodate sidewalks, trees, lights, and a grassy area.
And all the utilities that they wanna put in as well.
The road itself didn't change.
Where was the place you talked about the right out only, Steve?
Well, yeah, this,
What part of the?
it's page 7, access 11,
11C.
11,
new 11, yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
just verify those numbers.
What's that?
The width.
The width,
It is correct. That is 57.5 is correct.
Okay.
okay.
Yep.
So it's only a couple feet
Yeah,
from,
yeah, it's only a couple of feet. It's not 54, it's 57.5.
all right, thank you.
Yep. I did verify that with the surveyor already.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna go back to page
Yeah.
5 then. Top of the page, we talk about Appendix C and the Malta Gardens community and that buffer area. So you should probably add some language in this section about maintenance of dead and diseased trees, that you can do that. I also have and because we've run into this from experience, we have run into experience that, hey, you're not supposed to cut any trees down, you're not supposed to do this, but then we have a maintenance issue, right?
Right.
So please address how you're gonna maintain dead and diseased trees.
We have that in the rest of the document for, I think, for some of the conservation areas.
Okay.
I can certainly add some language in this area if you'd like to see it.
I would like to have something specifically regarding that buffer area.
Okay.
We are also gonna, because of the community and so forth, we would like you to take an inventory of your tree species, what you have there, because it feels like there's a lot of scrub trees, but it, and then include like, kind of like a rendering of what that buffer looks like with what's existing. And that rendering should be provided during site plan review for when you go to subdivision, because we're assuming that you're going to subdivide out the apartments, the condos, and then you're going to have subdivision for the townhouses and
Yeah.
single family. So we feel that at site plan or subdivision review, we should know what's in that buffer area. That way, when you go to do maintenance, or have to do maintenance, we know what's there. And then we're also thinking about, what if we have a blight? What if we have a natural disaster? And, winds, what have you, knock down a whole line of trees. You're gonna have to replace them, so we should have some language about replacement.
I mean, wasn't that the point of putting in the language regarding the 6-foot stockade fence to kind of minimize that, that view? I guess I'm questioning why we would have to go through and do, it's a 100-foot buffer of trees to go through and have to do an inventory.
It
And,
doesn't have to be perfect.
Well, you're only gonna look at trees, 4 inches or greater in diameter anyway.
Yeah, something. Some of the more mature trees, we know that we're trying to head off some problems from from both sides, right? So big thing is right now buffers, and we're trying to figure out how to minimize consequences down the road.
That has a
Complaints.
history in our town
It
and
does.
forest. When many trees had fallen and they ended up in people's backyards and on the trail. And that was huge.
so you want an inventory of trees, and then you said if a tree falls down, then you gotta replace it, but you're not replacing a,
Not necessarily right away. I mean, maybe we need to have a percentage at what point, like 1 or 2 trees or, or 5 or 10, out of however long this area is, but there should probably be a trigger when, trees should have to be replaced.
And if, as I understand it, like, we had like one of those microbursts that came down through town here and wiped out a ton of trees in Luther Forest and other areas, and the natural buffers are completely destroyed, and there's no real mechanism to require cleanup and replacement. So since there's an HOA, I don't think we're looking for, well, I can't say for certain, but we don't need the level of specificity to say, what exact trees are in there. But, if trees of more than X are in a density requirement, such that the buffer is, that there's some enforceable mechanism to make sure it's cleaned up and then replaced.
I think we're trying to find a threshold, like.
Yeah, it is, but that's tough. I mean, now you
Yeah.
you get a tornado that comes through, like we had in 1998, levels all the trees, and all of a sudden, the HOA has to do a special assessment, right? And put together a couple $100,000 to recreate the planting. I mean, I think that's unreasonable. I mean, I understand the spirit, but there's got to be a better way to approach it. Are we talking about this buffer? Is this kind of the focus what we're
Yeah.
looking at? Is that solely, that's?
Yeah.
That's solely the.
Yeah.
The buffer over to the, so it's, right now as it stands, it's 100 foot of vegetation and then a screen up to a 6 foot stockade fence would go across there. I mean, 100 feet of, it's
Maintain the stockade fence.
fence is not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is.
Floria, I have a question, and to the point, you don't want it to be administratively infeasible for the HOA, but is there a number of trees, or is there some like designation? I'm just thinking outside, to say that there needs to be X, a standard that says that, it needs to be maintained so that there's, you have the 6 foot stockade, which is 100% density, so you have that.
Right, well, we initially proposed just having a 100 foot buffer of the vegetation, and the board came back and said, well, we'd like something more opaque, and so we said, well, okay, what if we have to do up to a 6 foot stockade fence in areas that it's just not opaque enough, and so we put that in, thinking that would be it, and now it does seem a little onerous to ask for surveys and replacing. What if 50 feet in, got a tree falls down? How do you get in there with a tree spade and put a big enough tree in there? I guess I'm challenged a little bit with the mechanics of how we go about doing this. 100 foot seems like a pretty reasonable buffer now, so I'm not opposed to discussing it. I just feel like I feel like there's gonna be challenges down the road.
Right.
I think it's less to do with the individual tree falling down situation and more of that, in general, is the buffer intact? Is the character of the buffer providing the function it's supposed to be providing? So if we say in 15 years, you've got massive gaps in the buffer and we can see through to the other development, that's the sort of thing. We're not really concerned like one tree fell down, one tree fell down over there. It's more about, is the buffer functioning? So maybe having a threshold that's more about the visibility and the function of, is it providing the purpose that it was intended for?
I think that's why we added the language for the fence, that that was gonna prevent, so if the trees thinned out or there wasn't as much vegetation after time, something that you would have this opaque buffer, that was really the discussion, it was how that got added, and now it seems like it's gonna be more vegetation. Huh?
Yeah,
We want both. We would like to maintain the continuity of the fence and then maintain the continuity of the vegetation buffer as well. I think that's really the root of what we're getting at.
yeah. Because from the mobile home side, you'll be able to see a multi-story apartment building. From the apartment building, you can look out and see the mobile homes. But if you have the tall trees, a 6 foot fence is not gonna do anything for those upper levels or for the mobile home side that has to look at the building. So if you have the taller trees, that's gonna provide that additional screening. So the 6 foot fence really only takes care of the ground level visibility. But if you're looking at it from another perspective, you do need that tree height. So that's why it's kind of like both, as Alex was saying.
Would it be, going back to the, when you said survey, I mean, would a sufficient enough survey just be taking, a substantial amount of, pre-site photos and say, this is what we need to maintain a density of, 85% leaf coverages per, photo one, or whatever, so you're not going in with some intern to go flag every tree down, we got 25 maples, this, that, and the other.
Well, I'm hearkening back to a project we did in Saratoga where they asked for an individual tree survey and it was so onerous, I can't even tell you,
Thousands of trees.
to go out there and label every tree as
So then you gotta get an arborist.
9-inch maple.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get the arborist and that,
Yes, we had to hire.
one
an
guy
arborist.
that does it, and that's a
Yes.
good job to have.
You remember that, right?
That is a
Yes.
good
Okay.
alternative, photographs, trying to give some density and,
Right.
You know, what I'd be very happy with is on under your site plans, you kind of had some plantings scattered throughout the whole project. If you could take that same concept and just put a grouping of them up that back, I would be satisfied. I mean, I don't know about the planters, but it would help that higher up, looking down into the property on the side that's over the fence. And thank you for having that fence in there. It helps you as it helps the other site on the side also. Trust me.
All right, let's take a stab at it and see if we can come up with some language that works for everybody and that,
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think our biggest thing is, as we have all said, is maintaining the continuity of both the ground level and then, you know, I guess the elevated buffer. So the fence provides the ground level
Yep.
buffer, and then the leaves of the trees provides that elevation buffer.
yeah.
Take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, sorry,
pictures.
I know that was painful.
Don't go out and survey every single tree. That's not
Okay,
what we want.
thank you.
Terminology.
I wanna know every wood shot, every.
No, I don't, you joke, but we had to do this and it was,
Sorry, you're having a little PTSD.
I was, yes, thank you.
Count every walnut.
We're not holding on to
That is what we had to do,
I feel your pain.
yeah.
Next section.
Okay.
E, the trail.
Mhm.
You should add some language about, and I'm not sure if it's in there later, about maintenance and who is going to be responsible for the internal trails that you have here.
Right.
Yeah, so,
It's gonna be the HOA, it's gonna be, have to do that, it's gonna be a natural trail, we've talked about this, right, it's gonna be a natural trail, so to the extent of having to cut down a tree that falls down across it or something like that, and that's what it will be, so it would be the
so
HOA.
I
that
would
do
add
that.
some, just a little bit of language, so in case somebody that is not part of the HOA is looking at town law, looks this up and they're like, hey, I trespassed and I went on this trail. And now they're complaining to the town about the maintenance, we can say, per section E, it's the responsibility of the HOA.
First you say you trespassed, so you're not supposed to be there, and by the way, we'll take care of it, but yes, okay.
So, just, you know, it helps you, it helps everyone if we know who's gonna maintain
I'm
it.
sorry, what section was this under again?
It's,
What page?
page 5E, it's under the trail connections.
Okay.
Right, and just to link it, it would also be page 8E in the homeowners association and condo associations. I was gonna comment that both of them need to be cleaned up to indicate what the maintenance responsibilities are. You know, there's gonna be trails, there's gonna be buffers, there's gonna be the roads, you know, so
I'm sorry, Steve, what section were you at?
that would be on
E1,
E1
What page?
8.
if you could just hit maintenance responsibility in both those sections, that'd be great.
And they're typically I don't know, we discussed it at the last meeting too, but that HOA documentation is usually approved at some levels. That something you want to have done at site plan to make sure so that they have a chance to make sure it's done.
Planning staff,
I mean, to see it now would be burdensome. You don't need to, you know, you haven't built anything yet, but to submit
Oh, we
the
addressed
HOA.
that in here, didn't we? That we're gonna have to. do
I
have-
know we talked about it.
I know I put it in here, so.
I just might have missed it. So let me look.
Yeah, I know it's in here that the town is gonna have to review it, so it is, Steve, I will double check. but
Yeah,
I know.
I
put
will
it in,
too,
so.
Okay.
so F
What page?
is 5.
Up at the 5?
So, yep,
Okay.
number F, or letter F. So just where it talks about the bus stop, I would add the word public bus stop, so it's not confused with a school bus, because the school districts set where their bus stops are. The town shouldn't be dictating where a school bus stops, in my opinion, because we don't know where all the children are.
And they move, and they grow up.
And they change to school, will change where they want them to get
So-
picked up and
So if
dropped
you could
off.
just
That's a good.
They
Just
kinda
clear, just
prefer
state
to
that that's a
drop 'em off
public
at
bus stop.
houses, I know, lately.
Is it better to say public bus or school bus?
Public transportation, I'm just trying to like
I'm no
eliminate, because
lawyer
we've had planning board members talk about school bus stops versus the public transportation CDTA bus stops, and then I feel like we need to, make that a
We could just
clarification.
say public transportation, public transportation bus stop.
Yeah.
Because then, like, even if it's one of those, like, I know assisted living communities have like buses or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
flex bus or something.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one thing, I just wanna make sure we're not using the wrong language or something.
And
yeah.
Jeff, this was the section where I think you referenced that turnaround for the road there, because you mentioned, this is the future connectivity. In the meantime, there should be the turnaround.
Right, to the north.
Yeah, correct. I think on this page, in the section we're talking about is where, I'm just giving you a heads up
Yeah,
that,
that it's in there already.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we just need to add it to the map, but we had added it, because I remember having that discussion at the last meeting, so.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just curious, assuming this all gets fixed and tweaked, when you go to start, are you gonna start in one area or bits and pieces of everything?
I don't know. I think probably multiple areas, as we talked about earlier, I think there will be construction going on in multiple areas. Exactly which one starts first, I think it's impossible for us to tell you right now. It'll be planning, kind of how we get through the marketing of each of the sections. With, I will tell you that for anything that's gonna be done through an HOA, you have to have AG approval before you can market it. So you can start construction, but you can't do any marketing. You get a big fine, so you can't do that. So, huh?
Don't do that.
Don't do, no, we're not gonna do that. So you could see construction commencing, but with no marketing. So it really depends on, I think, from a timing standpoint. But I don't have a good answer for you at this moment. Yeah.
Well, that actually, what he just whispered, I won't say out loud, but we have had issues with other projects and that got into difficulties. I don't mean the financial, I mean building difficulties. So just curious how,
The starting of permits and houses, they wanted to start off quickly, which makes sense, but on the other hand, they wanted something back from the town too.
Did the town give them anything back?
Huh?
Did the
No.
town give them anything back?
No.
I know if there was
You
an
beat me
open
to it,
door
but
here.
yes, I do.
That was a fun kind.
In a perfect world, we'd start each section, concurrently. That would be ideal.
So this is gonna be a pretty big project for you guys, right?
Yeah, it's a good sized project. There's a lot of components to it, But I think that's actually the appeal of it, that we're offering a variety of housing types and, yeah, exactly, actually.
Well, you look at what we did at Stonebridge, and
Right.
that was 221 units, and we had the quilted approach, same type of thing, and, that took us, that was a tough, that was different.
It was in a
That was
really, really tough
2008,
economic situation, yeah. Yep.
But, that worked out nice.
this is a very naive question I have for planning. It's possible that folks of very different ages and perhaps financial situation will be living in this area at the same time. We have had issues where neighbors complain, this is our sidewalk, our kids' playground. You're in that part, you can't come over here. Is there any way at this level to predict how to minimize some of that? I mean, can you really tell an 8-year-old he can't ride his bike into the other neighborhood, or?
When, I don't have an answer for you, so I'm pretty sure you can't.
I do know that the HOA that I have is private trails, and 35 years later, I found out it was private. always done as public.
And I agree, when they marketed it, and you're marketing this
Yeah, I
as a community-based type of thing, and then you're putting up signs that say, stay out. And it didn't, and I see it all the time, walking the Zim Smith Trail. Stay out of our neighborhood. And that really winds me up a little bit, because, don't come in our neighborhood, don't come in here, or anything like that. And I don't know how, you talked about trespassing on the trail, but in the proposal, it's talking about being a connected neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, we're connecting, yeah, for
We're telling
you,
them no.
but it's not, it's a one-way connection.
Well, so you were here last time, but we did discuss this a little bit, and they asked if this trail here was public or not. And we said it's on private land, so it's private, right? The reality is, it is private. You're not doing a public trail. But the reality is that people are gonna use it.
Yeah.
And there's nobody that's gonna police it. It's gonna get used. And I will also say that the insurance companies know this. When you provide your coverage, they know that that's gonna get used.
People
You
are gonna walk on
can't,
your trail.
you can't stop it, you
That's
know?
our problem right now with our HOA.
Yeah.
Exact problem.
Listen, there's gonna be an HOA in here, but you think that the people from here or here aren't gonna walk their kids or their dogs or their you think they're not gonna ride their bikes in there? They're all gonna do it. And I don't think anybody honestly has an objection to that. It's if you're going in and causing a disturbance, or your dog's doing its business on somebody else's lawn, maybe that's the issue. But largely,
And it's not you,
Overall,
but I just have an issue with, I find that the signs that some of these people put up are rude.
yes, they are.
And it's just, it's like, really?
Yeah.
Um,
We are trying to, really is meant to be an connected community. And one of the things that the board asked for was a connection with Trail Connection. It doesn't show on this map, but we do have a couple of the trails that go through. It is meant to be an interconnected community, and,
Great idea, getting into the
Right.
Jim Smith Trail.
right. And the community approach on this is that we're gonna have a community center that everybody in here will be part of. So that everybody will have access to, not just a single family or not just the townhouses. Everybody will have access to that, So, look, we can legislate, we talk about this all the time. You can make all the laws you want, right? Right turn, and if they make a left turn, what are you gonna do about it? That's for your sheriff's department to deal with it. We can't police everything and force people to do it. We do the best we can with signage and hope people do the right thing, but beyond that, none of us are gonna stand out there in 10 degree to below zero weather and say, don't walk on that trail. It's just not gonna do it,
Go down to Down Street, all the signage is like, you're on a throwaway traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't do this, don't do that, maybe you're right. Where's your common sense?
So the community center, is that gonna be, you said it's available for everybody?
It is gonna be
in
for
this
the entire
development?
project.
Okay. Is there gonna be a fee associated with that, or is
I-
it just by right?
There's likely gonna be, if you want to rent it, I would suspect there's going to be a fee associated with that for cleaning purposes and insurance, but it's gonna be, the HOA is gonna own and maintain, so everybody's gonna contribute to that HOA that's gonna be one of the components of the entire project.
Gotcha.
So I could envision a place where if you wanna do it for special events, you wanna have a anniversary party or a shower, I can envision there being a fee associated with
Right,
that.
but if you're just going to the gym,
You can, AG, but you can hire companies to maintain that and manage that stuff, yeah.
right, but if you're just going to the gym, like your normal, whatever, if there's a gym in there, there's no fee for that, it's just if you're renting.
You'll see at the door, hopefully.
Probably
Right,
part of your
that's right.
HOA.
That would be part of the HOA.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just wanted to clarify.
Thinking about moving?
I'm on a level with you, 1600's outside of my price range.
Works for the town of Malta, remember?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
All right,
Is
what else you
there
got?
gonna be
sometimes we're our own devil, I mean, we're just sitting here like, we wanna see this, and we wanna see that, we wanna see that. All of a sudden, we got a project that might not even be affordable.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier when Alex was asking, that you gotta be careful, because it's
Yeah.
easy to make a project not affordable or attainable anymore, yeah.
You can balloon all sorts of costs.
Yeah, yep,
Like trees.
Can we move on?
yes.
All right, architecture. Somewhere in you have a list of materials that you are proposing for exterior walls,
Page 6.
page 6. I think it's triple I. I would add smart siding to that as another option, because it's also a nice quality material that is not vinyl.
Triple I under which one? Is it, exterior materials?
Yep,
Gotcha,
exterior,
okay, yep.
C, exterior materials.
So, let me just, we actually addressed this, I think, when you, well, so we talk about brick, stone, masonry, cementitious materials are expressly permitted. So whether it's LP Smart Side or Hardy, they're kind of the same thing, and that was what we were trying to include, all those as options in there. You want me to specifically, I hesitate to call out a specific brand
Okay,
as opposed to just types of materials, unless you want it, you
I would
know?
advocate against that. You don't want to
Okay.
show favoritism
That's
to a
fine.
certain material.
I mean, I just want to make sure that you have other options, that, I mean, we are allowing it in form-based code because it was, I've had some questions about, because it is a higher quality material,
Right.
composite material.
Right, and that's why we say brick, stone, masonry, cementitious materials, all those are expressly permitted to say that you can use all these should you desire to do so.
Okay.
If there's another type that I think this covers it, but I'm more than happy to look at another type if you wanted to add something else in there, but.
Trying to give you guys some options
Yeah.
that we don't pigeonhole you guys
Right.
into some
Yep.
materials as
Like
the building
form-based
materials
code
change.
requires specifics, right?
Yeah,
And
but we
we
did
don't-
add that actual term to form-based code, because I had a couple builders come to me and ask, can I use this? I'm like, show me what this is. This is a new product for me to look at. And it meets the requirements.
Right.
So we're just trying to give you
Yeah,
guys
no, I appreciate that, and
Other
that's what we were trying to do as well.
high-quality materials that just give you another option.
Right.
And say you're not the builder for this,
Right.
right? Say you decide to sell off part of the project or what have you. They're gonna look at this and they're gonna be like, what do you mean? I can only use these, 5 types of materials. Just
Yeah.
trying to help you be able to get to your final
Just
end
don't
goal
sell
on
the
that.
project out.
Anyway,
If you don't believe that this is pigeonholing you, I think we're okay with it, right?
if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. So,
You're in at the end, so.
Ours.
There we go. Ours, yes.
Yep. I have just a question, and you've mentioned it a few times. Obviously, there's language in here. What we're trying to prevent is the planning board to tell you you have to use a specific architectural feature or exterior, product, right? And the language specifically addresses that. And it also allows substitution of materials. But your intent here is that, well, I'm not clear. On the first part of it, I get it. We don't want to, in other words, you don't want them to say, planning board to come back and say you gotta do all stone. You want to have the flexibility to use any of these things in here. The second part to that, though, is where you have that you can substitute materials in E2, shall be permitted where such substitutions maintain overall architectural character, massing, roof forms, and color palette consistency. Are you saying that you have the ability to go outside of the materials and standards listed in here? And if so, who makes that call? Is it?
I don't feel like, I think we gave ourselves a lot of flexibility with respect to the materials in here. I don't know that, it's not a hey, a gotcha clause in there. It's not what it's intended to be.
No, I just wanted to know.
But it is specifically trying to say, if we have a particular design and, if you called out, let's say, Smart Side, and then you said you could switch it for
Hardy board, yeah.
it's kind of the same thing if we were gonna be doing that. I think if you have if you want to tighten up a little bit, you have a suggestion of something that you think that where this might be problematic, I'm certainly happy to look at it.
Sure. I'm asking the question because I just want to understand if that's the general intent. I would have a proposal to the substitution of material language and possibly a clarification for the planning board language, basically to say, like they can't require a specific product or within this. That's your discretion to build it. They can prove it, make sure that it meets the criterias that we put forth in here, but they're not gonna come back and say, no, we want all stone, or we want all this, right?
Right,
So,
and that was the intent,
Okay.
to do that, because again, you don't want the planning board to decide that, oh my God, it's gonna be all masonry product, and all of a sudden it's not attainable
it's
anymore.
not affordable, or you can't get it, or there's a tariff and now it's, 100% more, or whatever the factor is, right?
More important, we're looking for architectural style to make it, and we gave all those examples in the appendices
Yeah.
to say, look, this is the style buildings we want to incorporate in here, and we want the flexibility to do that, and we don't necessarily want to make every building exactly the same. You want some flexibility.
This is a
You
one or
can then build
two,
a house in UNLP Smart Side, and somebody else wants a different product, that we can do that,
right, but they're not getting aluminum siding, right?
That's right.
Right, so, yeah, it's just a couple minor things that I'll shoot over to you for consideration.
Yep, great.
I think we addressed everything on page 7.
I had just a couple of comments, and it's what I mentioned before with the drainage district. When it comes to the water supply district, I'll propose some language that just broaden the requirements to make it clear that the town isn't obligated to extend any infrastructure related to the water.
Okay.
And the same would go, I don't recall what it said for other utilities, but I got a note to send that language over to you.
Okay.
You sure you can't give us a final cost of what these are?
Under $1 million.
I don't think I have anything more on page 7. We addressed the width of the right-of-way inconsistencies. Page 8. I just want to be caution with, if this gets adopted after our town zoning code update, the sections, if you reference a town code section, we need to make sure that those references are correct.
Okay.
Because they are correct today.
Okay.
They may not be correct in 2 months from now.
Okay.
Or 1 month. So for instance, the lighting,
Give us a little flexibility.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so we just want to make sure that when this gets adopted, that if there's any
consistent,
reference
yeah.
to another part of our town code, that the section is correct.
Okay.
And I see that there's a question about lighting specs from Malta. And was this for,
We talked about the solar light
Solar
specifications. I think you told us you wanted the solar lights used at the intersections. We said we would, but we were looking for that spec.
so I believe we provided Lansing's office with what we have done, what we approved for intersections over at Traverse Meadows.
Okay.
We could use something like that.
Okay.
And if you need it again, we can send it again. So, and that could very well be an appendix, but you could give yourself some flexibility, because what if you can't get that product?
Right. Substitutions. There we go.
Substitution, or it's something in kind, or like, I just want to caution you not to
Great.
get stuck with that. So we want to be able to have some flexibility for those solar lightings, if that's what you
Gotcha.
choose to do.
Well, I think that was a request from the town to do that solar lighting at those intersections, right? You wanted that as opposed to,
If,
right?
right, I mean, if that's what the developer wants to go with, I mean, if you want to go with lights that, the HOA is going to have to maintain through electrification, then I guess you can do that, but.
Oh, okay. I think we misunderstood that. I thought that was a requirement the town wanted us to
We're
specifically.
giving you the option.
Gotcha, okay.
You can,
Okay.
maybe if you want to make that an option in your.
I would
in your
like to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I know that there has been, some other developers have had some issues with National Grid for placement or lack of space in downtown, for
Sure,
instance.
sure.
Retrofitting, that there might not be a lot of space for underground utilities, so a solar lamp sometimes
This works.
Just
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So,
Great.
want to give that flexibility for developers to install solar lighting if
Sure.
that's. what
I mean,
they
I
choose.
like it. If it's possible to do it, we can do it effectively, then I like it.
Okay. We talked about the trail system and the maintenance.
Yep.
I believe that was being put in the HOA documents as well.
Yeah, there's, again, this is the point where you did thankfully add on-site trail system and parking spaces, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, the buffer area needs to be maintained by the HOA. And any non-town roads, the non-town roads, private roads are addressed elsewhere, but I'll shoot you a note that I think it should be clear that it's in here. And I know you have a whole process of getting your HOA and condo docs approved, but typically, in addition to the town ordinance, this PDD legislation that we're adopting, you're going to be filing covenants and restrictions as required. That whole process, would be, those would be subject to review with the planning board, as well as the HOA docs, just to reiterate those 2 points.
When you send it over, just include that, Steve, and then we can
Okay.
go through that and add that.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's what I had on page 8.
So the deed restrictions need to be reviewed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's really, that's going to be part of your HOA and documents, but I would, that protects the town as well, that it's enforceable. And it doesn't necessarily go here, but since we're talking about it, one of the provisions that I didn't see, and it may be in here, but, there's no further subdivision allowed, or there's a lot of open space, for example, that those are properly restricted both in our law and in the declarations.
I think we're down to, do you guys have any more? I think I have my only comment left is the public benefit. So if we have anything before the public benefit. Did you have something?
I do, sorry. I have a couple of, I think it'll be easier just for me to send you this, but on H, the new red line language about applicability and intent, I want to clean up that language a little bit, and I'll propose something for you, if that's okay. I don't think it'll change the meaning of what you're trying to do there, and we can work on that. And then the other question that I think we need to just address here is that we do have a pending potential both change in our PDD legislation as well as zoning update. So I just have to review this section B here. I don't have a specific comment on it, but I have to look at what we may approve and make sure we don't have any conflicts between this and the new local law. I'm not trying to say that we're imposing the new standards upon you. That was not what the town board intended to do. There's a sunset provision in the proposed local law. There's a sunset provision in here, and I got to look at them and to make sure that we're not creating a headache. So there might be some, on this page 9H, I might have some changes to that, and I'll send that over to you.
And this really stemmed mostly from the conversation of the changes when the town was going to get their PDD, legislation and other code changes done, and we're going through this whole process, and then all of a sudden they change it and it's not reflected. So just kind of get that back and forth so that one didn't cancel the other out. If you guys did something that became less restrictive, that we didn't have to come back in front of the board, we just had to notify you in writing that we were gonna take advantage of that less restrictive provision in here. So you'll go through that. You
Yeah,
can talk
yeah.
about it. I don't think it's
No, I don't think there was
but, yeah.
anything jumped out from there. I'm more worried about making it clear that the more restrictive provisions don't apply. So,
And that's what I would try and address in here too, so.
okay.
So public benefit?
Public benefit. So I know that the pathway is supposed to be 10 feet wide. But I also understand there may be some areas that the pathway may need to skinny up due to some property issues or topography or what have you. I don't want to give you guys a full pass on a 10-foot pathway, but I would like to be able to provide some language, I'm not sure how to write this, where there is a constraint, a land constraint or a property constraint. Say we can't do a taking. If, say, you're required to obtain lands and a landowner refuses, the town of Malta may not want to enact eminent domain.
Right.
I think the language for this path should have some flexibility due to restraints along the right-of-way that are not within our control. I'm not sure how Steve wants to write something into our language about that, but I want to make it so we can have some flexibility in width. I don't want to go less than 8 because then it's not a pathway anymore, but I know that I'm pretty sure that we're going to have some issues with the design on a few areas, who knows, because we've already run across a couple of those areas with the Kettles Grant.
Yep.
So knowing that, I want to be ahead of it for you as the developer, but also as for the town of Malta, to make sure that we are not all of a sudden increasing this cost to the developer as well as the town of Malta. If the town of Malta has to do a taking, then we have to purchase that land at market value, and it's just gonna delay. Fair market value, right. So I wanna make it doable rather than finding that is something that.
Question now, on this area that you're talking about, this is parallel to Route 9,
Correct.
going the whole distance of the project?
Yes, it actually runs from, I believe it is Catio, and will hook into the roundabout area to where the adjacent, 2272 Route 9 on the south.
I'm not gonna go back and do it now, because I know we're running out of time, but I know I had some language in there that talks about this being reduced down in some areas where it was constrained. Not to the public benefit, the reason for it or the justification section at the bottom, but I believe I had language in there already that talked about, in some places, reducing it down. I can go through and highlight that for you, and you and I can talk about that, but we did have something in there.
So there is on paragraph 2 in H, it does talk about that, but I'm wondering if we need to strengthen that or make that a little more clear.
Yeah, I think just to summarize, we can work on the language to clear it up. I appreciate, first of all, all you put into that about this public benefit, where it really helps with the transparency for the public to see. It's commendable. But I think what hopefully we can get what we need to build the road. But what we just wanted to be clear that it says not exceeding 10 feet in width. It's intended to be 10 feet in width with the ability to narrow it as need be to accommodate this. So I think we can just kind of flush out the language there. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Okay.
My other question is, I know we kind of talked about phasing. When do you foresee construction of the pathway, and when should there be language in the PDD language that states when the pathway should be constructed. So that's for the board too. I'm not making this language up. So these are things that I think about. We've got a huge community going in, potentially 200 and almost 300 units.
94, say 300.
Yeah. Oh, right, so.
306, 306.
306. I think we were at 294, sir. But I feel like there should be a trigger for when this pathway.
We talked about that earlier, and we will talk about that and try and address that in here for you, but that was one of our earlier, your comments, right? So, yeah.
It's, because I just,
Yep.
I don't want to see the project to, I mean, it could be a 10-year project and we still don't have a pathway
Exactly.
down Route 9.
It's-
And we all know that these projects, you've got to make money to do your public benefit. We get that, but so we should have a trigger
Okay.
at some point when that needs to start happening.
I think it should be, I think unit-based might be a good idea. You had a question.
Yeah. Question now, who's gonna maintain this pathway?
That should also be put in here, and my guess is because it's in the New York
We
State
have the
DOT
ordinance.
right away, typically DOT will do a use and occupancy permit with the town of Malta. We don't have one for that section of town, but DOT will make the town of Malta, I'm assuming, will make the town of Malta the responsible one.
We had this discussion at the last workshop again as well, and we talked about this and said, this is truly a public benefit, because this is not benefiting our project, this is the town of Malta residents as a whole.
Yes.
So they're gonna be able to connect from way up north all the way down to the Zim Smith. So we agreed that this would be something the town would maintain. I don't think you can get DOT to do it, right?
No,
They're
they
not gonna
won't.
do it,
They-
right,
So
so,
that's why the
right.
use and occupancy
That's
permit.
how come I'm asking the question.
yeah,
So-
yeah,
So
yeah.
just
Is this gonna involve Terry and his crew?
potential, yes, and if it's wide enough.
Substantial, too.
Right, so if the path is wide enough and constructed well, they should be able to drive a pickup truck
With
with
a
a blade. Or,
And it's
you know,
gonna
when
be
there's,
asphalted because you
Yeah,
can't use
Right.
a
It's-
blade on it.
the path,
Right.
the path will be asphalt.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
just something that I want to make sure that we are not stuck 10 years down the road, not knowing what we're doing, or 20 years, or what have you, so.
And I think as far as the trigger, Alex, you brought up units. I mean, we'll look at the units, we'll look at the thresholds and see where we sit. I think that's a good metric. Jeff, you and I
Yeah.
can kick that around.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's, I'm
That's
glad
fair.
it is,
That's
because I'm
fair.
not gonna lie, I'm no developer here, so if that was unreasonable, please, I'm
No.
just trying to throw.
No,
out-
I think being able to do that, I think is probably a reasonable approach to doing it, and I appreciate your insight. So, yeah, let's take a look at that. We'll come back to you guys with some more refined language on this.
That'd be great.
Wonderful.
My concern on the town maintaining that is when we did that in Luther's Forest on Dunning
On
Street,
Dunning.
we had to adopt that as a resolution. Since then, we have the ordinance saying that the homeowner is responsible for the property in front of their house if it's considered a sidewalk. This is not considered a sidewalk, right?
No, this is a multi-use path trail.
So it will probably not get plowed in the winter time unless we direct Terry to do it, right?
Again, I'm gonna leave that to the board. That is-
Thank you.
I can't make
Thanks.
that
That's
determination.
why I'm bringing it up here.
Well, and again, and you're
It's
serving.
cost.
It's a cost, but you're also serving, a pretty large amount of residents potentially that will be using that. And that's the reason why we have the Petals Grant, because we have an underserved community that does a lot of walking up and down Route 9. And that path should be plowed in the winter because of
Safety.
an
I mean,
underserved.
That was the whole intent.
Yes, so
So if,
again, I mean, you think about.
Highway, right, Raj?
yeah,
So, think about your
DOT
population
highway.
you're serving, and we're trying to make things better for the community, and having a safe pathway
not just addressing these problems.
12 months of the year would be great.
I should call them problems, just issues.
If I could just take a minute, there's a few items which I don't have specific language for, but I just think are generally need to be added. Again, more, I don't want to say boilerplate, but Do we need to address wetlands in the legislation? I mean, there is substantial wetlands on here. Do we need to provide notice? I think we do. To homeowners, typically you'll see that type of language. Do we need to address, as a question for the board and planning staff, open space? Kind of like obviously we don't want any of this to be redeveloped. I mentioned that before, so I think we need a separate paragraph just on that. These are kind of generic type.
Why not have something in there already? I thought I put something in there about that. I'll go through, but I thought I did, Steve, because that was a comment I think you had previously.
Yeah, it was, and when I reviewed it today and yesterday, I don't recall seeing it. That's why I'm raising it again, but thanks, Jeff.
Yep, okay.
And then we don't have a section, as I mentioned before, on performance bonds, letter of credits. We're gonna need to add that. Fees section as well. That needs to be added.
Fee section?
Yeah, what are the fees that this is subject to? And a effective date and severability. It's a local law, so those are just municipal things that we'll need to add. I don't think you'll have any problem with those.
Are you
Uh,
talking about fees for like mitigation fees?
Yeah.
They should be falling under the townwide EIS fees unless the board is going to give them special consideration for.
There's no fees on this project.
Subject to all townwide.
Right.
We did already start. Yes, we did already start. Yes, we did.
Are you complaining?
Yes, I am.
And just from reviewing other PDDs, I think there's a couple things like 911 requirements and that need to be referenced. How you mark and delineate those. So those are additional sections that I don't think will be a major lift for you guys, but I wanted to point out that we need to discuss.
Okay, great.
Oh, I didn't see a section about signage, did I?
There is sign, yes. We,
Forget, sorry.
page 8.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yep,
Okay,
yep. Yeah, that's been in there. Yep.
it has.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Steve, so you and I can get together on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think what I'll do just is send you another red line with just bullet points of things to discuss. You can propose some language. If there's particular language that I think is necessary, I'll try to include it, obviously, for your review.
Great, thank you.
All right?
Awesome. Good, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming out.
I just have a couple.
Yeah, certainly.
Fire protection. I know it says building code, all that kind of stuff, and you're gonna hear the same story. Strongly suggest even single-family residences get home fire sprinklers. The other stuff, I think, is now gonna be covered by code now, especially the multiple residents and so forth, that's gonna be covered by code. Parking has become an issue in some of the newer developments where we start parking and fire trucks can't get in or out. So it's just a matter of, making sure that and that's when, I leave that to road spec and things like that, but, it may be to the homeowner association or something like that, as far as maybe alternate side parking or something, just to keep the roads flowing. I'm assuming, Scott, that maybe you had already submitted that emergency access plan with other plans, but emergency access plan on the private roads, especially the private roads, the public roads, I believe that Rogers, the town specs meet our spec, so, but if we can get that.
Sure, I don't believe we submitted that, but we will absolutely do that, yes.
Access plan.
We don't have any concerns.
Pete, do you require as-built plans for units of, I don't know if that's a requirement for fire protection or anything?
That's up to,
Town board or?
planning development.
No.
That's up to the so forth.
Could you clarify clarify when sprinklers are
Multi,
required
multi,
in
residential.
residential homes?
Over
Two or more now?
It's two or more.
It's gone down to two or more?
No, it's three,
Three
it's
more.
three or more.
Okay, three or more, so the.
Twins don't, threes do.
Okay, I knew
Apartments will, the condos will.
What do you, what do you think
I
it
thought
costs?
you brought up the single family.
Single
house.
family home, dollar a square foot. What? No, what?
No, as far as how much does it cost?
Yeah,
$1 per square foot?
$1 to $1.25 per square foot, that's what industry tells us. And local, and if you go to your builder, they're gonna tell you $6 a square foot,
Well,
because
you know,
they don't wanna do it.
well, that's not necessarily true. I just had it priced up.
Okay.
And I'm getting $5 to $6 a foot, and that's in the factory.
And everything from the factory that I talked to, the sprinkler associations and national sprinkler, that's way out of line.
If you have a guy for $1 a square foot, I would love to talk to him.
Okay.
Honestly, because
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Guy with
five-
insurance and more than just a pickup truck.
I just talked to,
No,
well, I
I
talked to
agree.
Capital Plumbing the other day.
I know.
$5 to $7 a
And
foot.
again, they don't want.
No, I called Army Fire, this is what they do. And they were $15,000 or $20,000 a house.
Yeah.
That's why I brought this up. I thought we as a town board addressed this
We did.
a while ago on single family houses.
They passed a resolution and it was never
It
filed.
was passed or failed.
It passed and it was never filed with the state of New York, so it died.
No, as a town board,
Yeah, you
we
passed it.
addressed it. I didn't think it passed.
It did. It wasn't filed with the town, it wasn't filed with the Department of State, so it died and they did not want to repass it.
Maybe I was the only one that voted no on it. Because I sat up there and I asked everybody in the audience that were firemen, I says, how many of you have sprinkler systems in your houses right now?
Oh, yeah, retrofit. no.
Zero.
Well, how many doctors smoke?
Yeah, retrofit,
Yeah.
you can't retrofit.
But that was part of my
New construction,
decision
I-
as to how
If you have a well and you don't get 5 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
You're not spinning the heads, you're putting in a $10,000, holding tank. So it's, I guess you gotta look at, realistically, how many new homes. And again, I don't know, one house is too many, and I would agree with that. But, how many houses really, have fires because of faulty construction?
How many new construction
Well, new
houses?
construction.
The older houses are way more prevalent, the new stuff, it's nominal. And you can't mitigate against one, it's like mitigating the bean counters for the car dealers, right, the car manufacturers, right? You just can't mitigate against,
I can get you all kinds of.
N of
information,
zero.
We can discuss this all night long,
Sure.
that's fine. And I'll get you folks some information from my sources. Sure. Sure.
It's like the radiation coming off the tower. All kinds of data, pro and con.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, anyone else have any other information they want to bring forward?
Where's Cynthia?
But she has a
Personal,
family emergency, yep. Okay, well, in that case, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thanks, everybody, nice to meet you guys, thank you, thanks for coming out.
Hey, real quick, Pete, could you just, it is still a meeting, can we get a, still a meeting, so let's adjourn the meeting.
I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, second, or no,